Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are here talking about the Jewish holidays. Ooh, and you know I hate these nets. But it's a white screen, so they're going to be all over the place. So don't mind that. Okay. So the site I'm getting this from is www.chabad.org. And this is where I'm getting all of the Jewish practices and things from and stuff like that. So we're going to be learning the special holidays, what they were set for, like what was the purpose of that holiday, whether or not you can work on that holiday, okay, and then in later video we'll be doing the Shabbat and what is work that's allowed, what is work that's not, and all that stuff. Okay, so I will also be giving the dates. So if you want to learn when these actual dates will happen, so that you can celebrate them too, that's up to you. Okay. By the way, I am looking at the screen of the site where I'm going to be reading this from, so I will not be able to see the comments in the thing precisely. So instead, what I'm going to do is I am going to go on my phone and go to the Anchor page so that I can see any comments that pop up as they pop up. Okay. So the first holiday for this year that's still to come, because that's where we're picking off from, okay, is a holiday, if I'm saying it right, it's Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah. I think it's Rosh Hashanah. It starts Friday, September 15th at sundown. And it ends at nightfall on Sunday, September 17th. And this is for this year, by the way. On this holiday, there is no work permitted. Okay? And this holiday is the Jewish New Year. Rosh Hashanah is the first of the high holidays, is the Jewish New Year. Jewish New Year. So for us in America, New Year's would hit January 1st, right? But in the Jewish holiday, the New Year is actually beginning in September. Okay, and it is supposed to be the anniversary of the creation of Adam and Eve, as well as the day of judgment and the coronation of God as king. That's what it says on the site. So what particularly that means, I don't know. Ugh, I hate this. Good gravy. Get away from my white screen. Okay, so within this area, there is two different things listed. The first is the month of Elul. Okay, the month of Elul is the sixth month of the Jewish calendar. It's a time of prayer and introspection. Okay, and it is the prelude, meaning the thing coming before the high holidays of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Okay, and it is a time of reflection, time of looking back. So same as like in America, near the end of the year, you start reflecting back on things that happened in that year, and you know how you can change it for the next year. You start making New Year's resolutions. It's the same thing here. Okay. And every day of Elul, for that whole time, they blow a shofar, which is a ram's horn, and they write special psalm. They recite special psalms, okay, in anticipation of the Rosh Hashanah, which is the New Year, and the Yom Kippur, okay. I really hate these things. So this is a full month, and this month of Elul starts August 18th, and it goes to September 15th. So it goes to the actual day of Rosh Hashanah. It leads all the way up to it. Okay. And the second thing is called the Feast of Gedalia. Okay. And the Feast of Gedalia is September 18th. This is after Rosh Hashanah ends. Okay. And it is the assassination of Gedalia in 423 BC. It is a fast day, so a day of fasting and mourning for the assassination of the Jewish royal Gedalia bin Achikam, the governor of the land of Israel, for the short period of time following the destruction of the first temple. Okay, and it is basically a kind of like how in America we have President's Day. This would be the same thing. Okay. Stupid gnat. Get on my nerve. I'm gonna kill you all one by one. So there are many different days like that. But the Feast of Gedalia is the mourning and killing of the guy, where they abstain from food and drink from dawn until nightfall. And they say it's very specific prayers. Okay? So that is that part of it. So that's the first holiday. So basically you have the month of Elul leading up to Rosh Hashanah, which then after that becomes the Feast of Gedalia. Okay? The next thing that happens, okay, is a short time after, is called Yom Kippur. I believe I'm saying this right. Yom Kippur. Okay. That also has no working allowed. Okay. It begins on sunset on September 24th, and it ends on nightfall on September 25th. So it's only for one day. Okay. Yom Kippur is known as the Day of Atonement. It is the holiest day on Jewish calendar. So we have the New Year's, but the most holiest day is this Yom Kippur. Okay. And they do fasting and praying and seeking forgiveness of God, as well as forgiveness of other people, and coming closer to God. It is the peak of the high holidays. Okay? It is the very peak of the high holidays. So this is the most highest holiday that they have. Okay? And on this thing, they recite something known as the Yizkor. And the Yizkor, for the most part, is just a very special prayer, I guess. So I'm looking up the Yizkor. The Yizkor is Hebrew. It means may he, or may he as in God, may he remember. The opening words recited for the dead German Rite Jews during the synagogue services on the 8th day of the Passover, known as the Pesach, on Shemoneh Atzeret, the 8th day of Sukkot, the Feast of the Tabernacles. Okay? And it's basically a prayer that's being said. Okay? And that prayer is done on at the very end of Yom Kippur. Okay. The next one is called Sukkot. That starts on Friday, September 29th of this year, and it ends on nightfall on Friday, October 6th of this year. Okay. Now, on the list, it says no work is permitted on September 30th to October 1st. Okay. So, for one day. Then work is permitted with restrictions on October 2nd to the October 6th. Okay. And they have restrictions on Shabbat. What are things that you're allowed to... You guys have no idea how much I hate these things. So as I said, I'm looking here for the restricted works or exceptions. Now on this particular Sukkot, known as Kol HaMoed, okay, it's a 7 days of festival that consists of 2 days of Yom Tov, followed by 5 days of Chol HaMoed. So the words loosely translates to being weekdays of the festival, also called the immediate days. Okay. In the land of Israel, there's only 1 day of Yom Tov, followed by 6 days of Chol HaMoed. On Yom Tov, all creation work. So for Shabbat, that is the work that's forbidden. Any kind of transitioning, creative type of work that creates anything is forbidden. Okay, so on Yom Tov, all creative work is forbidden, same as on Shabbat. So, except for the tasks involved in food preparation, that's the exception. So examples would be lighting a fire from a pre-existing non-fire, cooking, carrying from domain to domain. So any kind of creation or transitioning or turning one thing into another or anything along that kinds. Okay. Otherwise, all the mitzvahs and the customs of Sukkot apply. Eating in the sukkah, which is that outside, kind of like outside curtain tent thing, as well as taking the 4 kinds. The 4 kinds of 4 different things, and we will be learning about that. Okay, so the 4 kinds. Oh, don't worry, these gnats are going to get it. So I'm looking up the 4 kinds so I can give you the exact learning of the 4 kinds. So the 4 kinds are the following. They are a palm branch called the lulav, the hadass called the myrtle, okay, the arava called the willow, and the etrog called the citron. They are used to bless the sukkah or booth in which the sukkah is celebrated. So it's like kind of like a herbal flower and fruit blessing stick type thing. Okay. And what do the 4 species symbolize, you ask? They said in the Midrash, the 4 species symbolize the 4 types of Jews with differing levels of Torah knowledge and observance, bringing them together in unity. Okay, So that is what that four kinds is. There is a prayer as well that is said in that. Okay. There's a grace over the meals, in the reciting and the morning prayers. Okay. And then you eat in the Sukkah. The festival of the Sukkah, commemorating God's enveloping protection of the children of Israel during their 40-year journey in the desert. All these gnats are going to get, okay, in the desert. 40-year journey in the desert. So this is a way of celebrating, and it's 7 days long, and it's commemorating the 40 years that Israel spent in the desert, in the journey, after they left Egypt, okay? And people here should eat and drink and live in the Sukkah both day and night, as one lives in their house on any other days of the year. For 7 days, a person should make this their temporary home. So the idea is, as people of Israel traveled from Egypt into the Promised Land, they were traveling through the deserts, and every now and then they had to set up tents and home, like temporary huts and home type things. And so this is like commemorating that and remembering that kind of thing. Okay, so they set up a temporary dwelling, not a permanent dwelling, as a way of respecting that. And during this, you eat lots of bread. You eat, and it's just lots of eating and foods and stuff. And don't worry, I will give the link for this in the group. There's a water dwelling drawing celebration where they draw water to pour water on the altar, okay, of the temple, and they burn oil, and they do many other things on this thing. They do daily studies, daily thoughts, for the most part, and that is on October 2nd. But basically, what this says is this: the 7 days of Sukkot, celebrating by dwelling in the Sukkot, taking the four kinds and rejoicing, is the holiday when we expose ourselves to the elements, meaning nature, in covered huts, commemorating God's sheltering over the ancestors as they traveled from Egypt to the Promised Land. The four kinds express the unity and belief in God's omnipresence, and coming after the solemn high holiday. So this comes after Yom Kippur as well as Rosh Hashanah. Okay. And that is that one. So the next one is two different things. Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah, if I'm saying that right. Let me say it again, just in case you didn't get the names. Shemini Atzeret or Shemini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. I'm going to have to put in the comments for this. Okay, so I just put into the chat box the two names because the auto words, the CC, was having issues doing the actual CC for it. So on this one, it is Friday, October 6th. So The day may change, but it's October 6th to October 8th. It's 2 days. And as with any of the holidays, they begin at sunset and they end at nightfall. Okay? And there's no work permitted during those 2 days. So none of the work listed on the forbidden works that you also cannot do on Shabbat. Okay? Again, the Yizkor, which is that special prayer, is recited on October 7th. So the day in between, October 7th, is when the Yizkor is recited. Okay? The dates listed here are for other areas other than Israel. Israel does a different day listing. Okay? So this is following the 7 joyous days of the Sukkot. And it comes the happy holiday, and it doesn't really give a whole lot of understanding of what these are. So I'm going to open the page to try to see if there's more better description as for why it's celebrated. Why it's celebrated. Oh, I don't have my clipper. Okay, so the first day is known as that name, and they dwell in the Sukkah, but they do it without a blessing or Yizkor. Oh, you're gonna die. Okay. The second day is the other name, the second name, during which they complete the Torah reading cycle, and they mark it with dancing and traditional other events, something known as the Hakafut, as the Torah scrolls are held up high. Both days are celebrated with nightly candle lighting, festive meals at both night and day, and avoiding work. Okay? But it doesn't give an actual description of the reason why they're celebrating this, other than just some sort of ceremony, and it's a holiday. Okay. The next one is known as Chanukah. That one is on December 7th. I'll say the name again. Chanukah. The day is December 7th, and it goes until December 15th. Okay, really? You're going to make me... Yes, Sister Amata, this is live. Yes, Sister Amata, this is live. You're not watching a broadcast from before. Okay. On this holiday, work is permitted, except for on Shabbat. This holiday commemorates the rededication of the temple in Jerusalem after a group of Jewish warriors defeated and occupied the occupying mighty Greek armies. Okay. The next holiday for this year is going to be called the Fast of the Fast of Tevet. Okay, and the Fast of Tevet 10 is December 22nd, actually on my son's birthday, interestingly enough. Okay, and it's a fasting. And work is permitted on this holiday. Okay. And if I open up the link to that actual holiday on the site, it is Jerusalem under siege. Okay. And it's pronounced Asara B'Tevet. And it is the 10th day of the Jewish month. And it is the year and it's in the year 425 BC when it was created. The armies of Babylon Emperor Nebuchadnezzar laid siege to Jerusalem. Okay. And this day is observed as a day of fasting, mourning, and repentance, but it's also the day of deliverance. Okay. The day of deliverance where the city walls were breached and the Holy Temple was taken back after 70 years of being controlled by Nebuchadnezzar. Okay. They refrain from food and drink from daybreak until nightfall. And they add something called the Selechat and other supplements to their prayers. Okay. And they start this fasting as soon as they see 3 medium-sized stars in the sky. And they break this after Kiddush, when the fast is on Friday. Okay. And they have lots of different teachings of this, but it's basically, as I said, the destruction. So it's Israel taking back the temple from Nebuchadnezzar after 70 years of controlling it. So it was a very good, but it's a fasting thing. So now, guys, now I'm going to move to the next year of 2024. Okay. And 24, I'm gonna start the beginning of the year and list my way through until we get to the same exact time that we were today. So the first one for the year of 2024. So if you've been paying attention, basically I'm picking up from what's coming up soon in September, going all the way to the end of the year, and now we're backtracking. Now we're going to the next year to talk about the ones that I haven't talked about. So the next one is called Shevat. Okay. And it is January 25th. And it marks the beginning of the new year for trees. Okay. Nothing more than just the new year for trees. Oh, yeah. Really? You're going to make me do this? I don't know where everybody's at. Yeah. Apparently, I have to do these because it doesn't say the words all that well. So there's the word in the comment for Tyler. So a very simple one, not too hard. It's like the new season of growing, and specifically for trees. I honestly kind of thought that was a little funny that they would make a holiday specifically for trees. But then again, you think about the fact that trees you think about the fact that trees bring air to humans, therefore trees are very vital. Okay. The next holiday is known as, oh, by the way, on that holiday, work is permitted, of course. The next holiday is called Purim. Purim. And it begins on March 23rd, and it goes to March 24th. And here's what it says. Work should be avoided. It says, if it's not possible to avoid work, consult a rabbi or a teacher. Now, in this time, what it's for is the celebration of the deliverance of the Jewish people from the wicked Haman in the days of Queen Esther of Persia. Okay? And they have two different sections inside of this. They have Ta'anit Esther, Ta'anit Esther, and they have Shushan Purim. I gotta spell this right. Okay. Okay. Okay, so by the way, guys, I'm typing the actual names because autocorrect is not doing it correctly. Not autocorrect, but the CC, closed caption, is not doing it correctly. But again, this is celebration of the deliverance of the Jewish people from the wicked Haman in the days of Queen Esther of Persia. Okay, and they have two different things. So the first of the sections within this holiday is on March 21st. So it's prior to this holiday. And I will read what that's about. And then on the second one is March 25th, after this holiday. So one comes before, one comes after. So the first one is known as the fasting of Esther. And it is a dawn to nightfall fast held on the day before. Stupid nuts. Y'all gonna get on my nerve. Y'all gonna get on my nerve. Okay. And it is held on the day before this specific holiday, and it commemorates the fasting of the ancestors in response to the dramatic chains of events that occurred during the exile in the Persian Empire. The events are recorded in the book of Esther, and the salvation that came about at that time is celebrating on this holiday. Okay, and the fast is held for this holiday is held on that day that I told you. Okay, and it's a fasting. Okay, and it is. They are more lenient on, specifically when it comes to fasting, they will be more lenient on pregnant women, nursing mothers, and others who are weak. So this is the fast of Esther. Okay? The next one is the days of Purim. This happens afterwards. Okay? And it is celebrating, depends on the location, it depends on where you are and everything. Okay, but it basically it was a festival about the establishment of the sages and the prophets who decreed that it must be observed in every generation, listed in the Megillah, to establish these days of Purim at their appropriate time. As well as in the Talmud. Okay, they read this specific thing in the Talmud. So Talmud is the Jewish law. Okay, it comprises of many discussions known as the Gemara. Okay, which is the laws, known as the Mishnah. And it refers to the Talmud Bavli in Babylonia, and it is basically a book. Okay. So I'm opening the link to the Talmud. The Talmud is the mainstay or the order of the Jewish oral tradition. So it's like all of the rules and legislations and stuff. So it has the Mishnah, the Gemara, and is an important area for Jewish scholars with the mini classes, in-depth lectures, and overviews and things like that. Okay. Let's look real quick at one of the first things on the list of what is the Talmud, so you can get a better understanding. And I'll just give you the basic of it. The Talmud is a collection of writings that covers Jewish law and tradition, compiled and edited together between the 3rd and 6th centuries. And it is a mixture of Hebrew and Aramaic. And it records the teachings and discussions of the great academies of the Holy Land and Babylonia. Okay, and the word Talmud is Hebrew for learning. Okay, Torah refers to the 5 books of Moses, the Old Testament, while Talmud contains rabbinic or rabbi commentaries, traditions, and laws that have been passed down based on the Torah's wisdom. Okay, so the Torah is the Bible. The Talmud or the Talmud is something that kind of goes along with, kind of thing. Okay. So that is the basic of that idea. Okay. So the next holiday, very important one that you need to know. Okay, the next one coming up is the Passover. Okay, Passover, very important one. Okay, and unlike in America, this is a different day. So here's when it's going to hit in 2024. It's going to be April 22nd to April 30th, the Passover. Okay, now in America, we have, so let me say it this way. The Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, which is celebrating for us. It would be the New Year, the American New Year. Does that make sense? So it's the Jewish New Year celebrating the New Year versus America celebrating the New Year on January 1st. The Yom Kippur is kind of like something. Dang it! I have to pull it up again. The Yom Kippur is the holiest of the Judaism and Samaritan holidays. Okay, and it doesn't. There's no really translation for that in English of what it would be, but Passover would be equated to when Americans do Easter. Okay. So it would be the same thing. Easter is the celebration of that, but Passover is the Passover of. So here's what Passover, known as Pesach, celebrates. It celebrates the deliverance of the Jewish people from the slavery of Egypt. So so two different things, by the way. Okay, two different things. Easter celebrates what? Easter celebrates the death and resurrection of the Lord. So it's not the same thing, by the way. I thought it was, but it's not. I was wrong. Okay. So Easter celebrates the death and resurrection of the Lord. Okay. And the Passover, or Pesach, celebrates the deliverance of the Jewish people from the slavery of Egypt. The Passover has many tools, guides, insights, stories, inspiration, and just about everything you need to celebrate Passover. And during Passover, you bring your own wine. Okay, so that's known as the first Passover. So here's what happens basically. No work is permitted on April 23rd to the 24th, as well as on April 29th through the 30th. Work is permitted only on April 25th to the 26th, and April 28th, with certain restrictions, of course. Yizkor is recited on April 30th, at the very last day of this Passover. Okay. Now, if we open up the site, these gnats, whoo, I'm telling you, as soon as this video ends, I'm going to start killing so many of these gnats that are flying. They are going to get it. So, it is celebrated by the Jews each year, and it, as I said, it commemorates the Egypt in Exodus, the Egyptian slavery as told in the Bible. Okay, the first two of the nights are just the first night in Israel. They hold a seder, which is a candle lighting. After the candles have been lit, they do a 15-step feast, which centers around, and I said feast, meaning food, and it centers around the telling of the story of Exodus. Okay, many foods and lots of other stuff, and the cedar plate is kind of like a candle, but also a food offering kind of thing. But there's more about that. So then, after that, sometime later, okay, on the Passover, they clean out their home, clean out their souls of all unleavened and other type stuff and things like that. Now, we will go into that on a different day of the Shabbat and then the Passover and what in depth is required and things like that. Okay, but the basically on Passover you're supposed to clean out all unleavened, which is bread that has yeast in it. Okay, and you're supposed to do all sorts of different things. Now, I'm not going to go into full detail about all this stuff, okay, because it is way too much stuff for each one of these different holidays and stuff. So I'm just going to give the full link to the list of holidays, and you can use the link yourself to look at everything on this specific listing, okay, if you're interested in that. But then after that comes the second Passover, okay, and it is 30 days after the first Passover. It comes on May 22nd of the next year. Work is permitted, okay, and they do something called the Matzuhat. And what that is it's their way their way through of a week-long festival Passover. Okay, so if I open this up for the description, okay, it marks the day when someone is unable to participate. So it's kind of like a day when someone who was unable to participate in the Passover offering on the proper time, they can use this as a second way of, so like kind of like if you missed the first Passover, this is your second chance kind of thing. It is customary to mark this day by eating the matzu. Matzu is those kind of like cracker-like offering things. So it's kind of like it becomes like a cracker thing. Very much kind of similar to crackers, which is why when you go into churches, they eat crackers. Okay, and they do lots of reading and prayers and things like that. Okay, I'm telling you, these just wait till this video is done. These gnats are going to be in for it. I'm going to sit here with a white screen and just wait with my all-purpose cleaner, just wait and spray and kill, because I'm so sick of these things. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is known as Lag Bomer. Lag Bomer. That is May 26th. And during May 26th, they have a week, quite a few actually, long. So let me describe it. So between the holidays of the Passover and the Shavuot, the Omer is counted each evening, signifying the preparation of receiving the Torah on the holiday of Shavuot. You'll learn about that in a moment. So what is the Omer? Every evening on the second night, from the second night of the Passover to the day of the Shavuot, they count another day, marking 49 days, 7 weeks between these two holidays. Okay? And it's on a spiritual level, the counting mirrors the journey of the ancestors in the desert who spent these 49 days between Exodus and the giving of the Torah. So the Exodus meaning the Passover, and the giving of the Torah, the Shavuot, in spiritual preparation and anticipation. Okay, so that is what that particular holiday is. So here's what it reads. Lag BaOmer is a festival on the Jewish calendar celebrating the anniversary of the passing of the great sage and mystic rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. He's the one that wrote the Zohar. It also commemorates the end of the plague that raged among the disciples of this great sage. Okay, where the dying ceased. So that's that. Okay, so next we're leading on to a very important one called the Shavuot. So here's what the Shavuot is celebrating. The Shavuot celebrates the giving of the Torah. By the way, guys, there is a lag in the video. Okay, so the video is running very much behind on the video that I'm watching, but don't worry about it. Okay. So anyway, the Shavuot marks the giving of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, where all the laws and commandments and everything that were given on Mount Sinai. The 10 Commandments are read in the synagogues, just as they were in the desert on Mount Sinai over 3,300 years ago. Okay. So that begins June 11th and going to June 13th. Okay, June 11th going to June 13th. Okay, and the Yizkor is recited on June 13th at the end of it. Okay, and if I open the link real quick, is a 2-day holiday. Of course, as I said, it is the commemorating of the getting of the Torah. They celebrate by lighting candles, staying up all night learning the Torah, hearing and reading the 10 Commandments in the synagogues, feasting on dairy foods and more. Okay? And it is a very awesome, very important one, because obviously the Torah is when the Bible came along. Okay? So that's that one. The next one is known as the 3 weeks. Okay? And it is July 23rd of next year going to August 13th. So my birthday will actually hit on the 3 weeks. Okay? For next year. Work is permitted except for on Shabbat. Okay? But on Shavuot, the holiday before, there is no work permitted. Okay? On this, there are 2 things. There's a fasting of the Tammuz. That is July 23rd. There's a fasting for that. Okay? Where you go without food and water for 1 day. And there's a fasting of the Tisha B'Av on August 12th to the 13th. Okay? And what this celebrates is the 3 weeks are designated as the time of mourning over the destruction of the Holy Temple and the exile of Israel. Okay? The exile of Israel. So if we open up the 3 weeks to give a better understanding for you, okay, it is 3 weeks of mourning, the mourning of the destruction of the Holy Temple, as well as the launch into the still ongoing exile. And it is about the 3rd temple, which is yet to be built, and the date of when the holy temples were set on fire. Okay, so the destruction of the temples. So kind of like remembering the temples kind of thing. And we're almost there. Okay, so we're to the very next one. Now this is next year, by the way. Is known as the 15th of Av. Work is permitted on this day. It's August 19th of next year. And it's the sages proclaimed that this is one of the two great festivals of the year, yet they ordained no special observances or celebrations for it. It's just a holiday. Simple as that. Okay, guys? So, that is all the holidays coming from Rosh Hashanah this year, going to the 15th of Av of next year. Okay? So now that we've done that and now that we learned, thank you for joining the live. I will now go and look at the comments to see if anything else is there. Okay? I don't know where everybody else is at. Maybe they're busy or at work or something, but don't worry about it. So guys, I am now about to go back and give this listing into the group online so that you guys have it. So thank you for the being here, and thank you for joining. So I'm going to wait for the video to catch up, and then I'll end the video, and then in a short time more, don't forget we got Matthew chapter 10 for learning. Okay, so thank you for that. Stay tuned for that. Soon here in a little bit we got Matthew chapter 10. Okay, I think the video is all caught up, so I'm going to go ahead and end the live. Have a great day, guys.